Scent Podcast.
Okay, and we're live. This is Matthew, and I'm joined with Rizzle. We're back with another special interview on the Scent Podcast, where we're speaking with all the creators who are building some of the most fantastic projects in the crypto space. My guest today is a really special one. They're an OG digital cat breeder, and they've been involved in the NFT thought space for a minute. They're known for their super strong opinions, which, after doing some digging, I found is rooted in a sincere desire to help the NFT space and all the digital artifacts in it to stay around for centuries and centuries to come. They're also the creator behind the all-new on-chain NFT project, Avastars, which has a number of folks FOMOing out of control right now and is trying to champion an improved rich metadata standard for NFTs and push forward true NFT ownership rights by introducing a novel digital asset ownership license. I'm really stoked to be able to speak with Jim McNelis, the creator of Avastars, today. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Matthew. I really appreciate it. And from the sounds of the introduction, you really have been keeping up with what I'm doing here, and I appreciate that as well, man. I am trying to do what you say, and it's important that eventually people start to pay attention and listen to what I have to say in order for that to work. So, thank you.
For sure. Definitely looking forward to digging into all of those bits a little bit more. But first, if you could just quickly introduce yourself and then get into Avastars. Tell us about this latest project of yours.
Sure. Great. Yeah. So my name is Jim McNelis. I currently live in Idaho, United States. I don't hope to live in Idaho much longer. I don't want to talk about Idaho. I don't like Idaho. I mean, you can put this part in, but I don't like Idaho. Fuck. All right. Can you wind me up again there? Can you ask me?
This is the best start to a podcast ever, by the way.
That's right. Yeah, I was like, just let it run, man.
All right, fine. Let's let it run. I live in Idaho. I'm dealing with it, okay? So before I lived in Idaho, I've been many places, and that's not important at all because we're on the internet and we're building the metaverse, and we can all be anywhere, and it literally doesn't matter. It's morning time for Matthew. It's evening time for me, and I don't even know where Rizzle is, and it doesn't matter. So anyways, that is why we are actually here, right? Because we are building the metaverse. And for me, who I previously had a business setting up email for enterprise, I was started a business that was partnered with Google, and we helped some of the largest cities and organizations in the world set up their email systems. And then I took a couple years off, went on the Appalachian Trail, did some hiking, heard about Bitcoin, remembered that I knew about Bitcoin before, but had completely forgotten about it. Came back off the trail a couple months later, set up some mining rigs for Ethereum, and then everything popped off in December 2017, like right after I did that. I found CryptoKitties on December 4th after my cat had run away, and I bought a cat because I thought my cat was dead and I needed something to commemorate her with. She came back 2 weeks later. I mean, I had actually come up here to Idaho. My house was in Lake Tahoe, but I come up here to Idaho, and I got a call from my roommate. She's like, "Your cat's here." So anyways, that's how I found CryptoKitties. So thank you, Katniss, to my cat, for helping me find CryptoKitties. And then I've spent the last couple of years, really, we call ourselves degenerates or degens for short, because, if you put an NFT project in front of our face, we're just going to basically try to buy all of them. With degens like shiny things. So I very much have come out of the collector side of all of this, and I've been very vocal with the CryptoKitties developers and some different NFT projects about what I believe should be the next steps in NFTs. And I didn't really get a lot of positive reception. Some people like my ideas, but they're like, yeah, but we're not going to spend money trying to do that because we don't really think people care about that. And that's fair. So in April of 2019, I think it was Larva Labs released Autoglyphs, and they showed us that, hey, there are some people thinking about putting stuff on chain, and that kind of reinvigorated, my idea that I had around Avastars that I wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue. And then, by June of 2019, I had basically started the project and started to seek out a developer. I think I found it. I think Cliff I found right in the beginning of June, if not the end of May, and we've been going ever since. So the premise of Avastars, the grand vision, we'll talk about this more later, but the grand vision is that they will be the avatars of the metaverse, right? I looked at NFT space and I see a lot of people building games. And I know I'm a gamer. I'm actually I'm 42 years old and I probably play video games more than I should. So I have a pretty high bar as far as the games I actually want to spend my time learning and playing and devoting myself to. So I haven't really found many games inside of the blockchain space that I really like. CryptoKitties is about as close as it gets, and the game there is spending money to make more cats. So I liked that a lot for some reason. I'm still trying to figure out why. But so I didn't really want to make another game, but I really wanted to make a better NFT. So the foundation of Avastars wasn't to put specifically what we created. We didn't set out to create these characters. We set out to put art on the blockchain and SVGs in particular, because we figured out a way to do that, and then putting the metadata for the tokens as well on the blockchain. So really, I feel like we did kind of what CryptoKitties did, and I'm making some assumptions here. I think I took a similar approach here where I wanted to build a token, and I had some specific standards in mind for the token that I wanted to meet, because I, as a collector, want to buy tokens that are immutable completely. The art, the metadata, I don't want to rely, and no one should have to rely on third parties for blockchain items and assets. And that's the same for Avastars. I feel bad that, when we do launch the game of Avastars, that people have to kind of rely on us, to serve them up the scrolling and everything else. We did the RNG locally in your browser and not directly on chain. Anyways, this is a step. The token itself is completely decentralized. Once an Avastar token is minted, it's yours. There's nothing that we can do to take it away. The art is always on the chain. The metadata is on the chain. You can go make calls to our smart contract and read your metadata in a human readable form. So
before we keep going, just to kind of give people a more general overview of what the Avastar is, could you just walk us through what the SVG sandwich is that people are buying? What current stage you're on right now? I know you're in the Genesis founders, selling the exclusive ones before you get to the primes. Could you just walk us through the actual Avastar?
What it actually is? Because this is the information that's really not out there. And so I'm glad you're actually asking that. Okay, let's see. So first of all, yes, we stored, I don't know the exact number. I kind of do, but this is probably off by a couple numbers. It's 620 traits, and that includes what we call physical traits, and then the color palettes. And a lot of the physical traits don't actually look like much until you apply a color palette to it. But so there's 624 traits. And the last time they did the math specifically before we added backgrounds, which was 52 additional traits, we were at 1.8 quintillion or quadrillion. I think it's quintillion. It doesn't even really matter. The point is there's so many of them that even if everybody who collects NFTs scrolled for a month straight, we're still not even going to see nearly all of the possible combinations.
And can you unpack that scrolling mechanism? Because I had to reread that 10 times. And then I realized, people are literally just going to have to scroll through a browser, and each scrolling action will create a new Avastar that they'll see and could judge if they would like. Is that correct?
It's close. So did you play Clovers at all? Did you play with that NFT?
I didn't.
Well, the general premise is kind of what you said. I won't use Clovers as the example here. Basically, depending on the size of your screen, you may have 8 to a dozen Avastars on your screen at one time. It's just going to be basically a wall of Avastar profile pictures, and you scroll. And as you scroll, you generate more Avastars with these traits randomly in the browser. And if you find one that you want to make into an NFT, you click on it. There will be a price that you pay depending on the rarity of the Avastar, which is going to be clear to you when you're scrolling. And then you buy it. And then once it's bought, what happens is we actually, we've already stored all the art and everything on the blockchain. It's already all there. So we just basically store a trait hash, and we mint that and deliver it to your account. And then your token, like if you were to look at your token next to a CryptoKitty token, it looks pretty much the same. But the difference is that you can actually recall all the information. That trait hash, our smart contract can decrypt that for you and tell you exactly, or decode that for you rather, and tell you exactly what art that is. And what it does is it'll actually spit out the SVG code if you do a call to say, like, what's this art? So it's not going to give you the picture unless Etherscan decides to render the picture instead of the code. But you'll get all that code. You can go paste that into a file and make that into an SVG. But really, it's so you'll just scroll. Like, you can scroll forever and never buy an Avastar. And I've scrolled for months and months and months and months, and it's kind of fun to try to find one. You can decide that you want to find one with a combination of traits or that looks a certain way. And so what we'll do is they're broken down into 5 series. And once 5,000 have been created in this first series, then it'll roll over to the second series. And then once 5,000 have been created in the second series, so on and so forth through 5 series. So in what we're calling generation 1 primes are the ones you scroll through and find. There'll be 25,000 of those total. And the users will decide what 25,000 of those are created into NFTs. Do you have any questions about that part?
No, that's clear.
No, I'm following. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next part will be like, once that ends, then you'll be able to actually make an Avastar however you want it to look, provided you have collected primes that have the trait parts that you want to use to create your replicant. So there's 12 parts, there's 12 trait copies, there's 12 traits in any Avastar that make up the Avastar, and you get like 1 copy of each trait when you buy a prime. Basically, it's attached to the Avastar. You can't put it somewhere else. It's on the Avastar, and this is actually also metadata on chain. And when you use a trait to create a replicant, that on chain metadata, we call that dynamic metadata or composable metadata. That metadata is then changed to indicate that trait has been used. So you'll be able to actually build your own Avastars exactly how you want them to, like I said before, as long as you collect or buy the Avastars with the traits that you want to use to create that Avastar. So you have Avastar primes and you have Avastar replicants. Because of the nature of the trait parts and that you only get 1 copy from a prime, there can never be more replicants than there are primes. We also put a hard cap in the contract at 25,000, just to make sure that if there was anything that went wrong, it would still cap there. There should not be anything that goes wrong. So it's basically, that's Gen 1, right? Gen 1 is 25,000 primes, 25,000 replicants, plus these 200 founders and exclusives that we have on OpenSea right now, which would bring the total potential cap up to 50,200. And I've already explained the subcategories there. So that's basically what Gen 1 is this whole series, this whole collection here in Gen 1. And the art is by a Brazilian artist named Marmota and Milky. They're a Brazilian artist team. They do a bunch of commercial art with big brands like Burger King and Adidas and Hyundai and stuff like that. They're really new to crypto. This is their first project in the crypto scene. I think first customer in the US that they've ever worked with. They're just amazing. Their art has been top notch. And right now they're working on building out our website, which we don't have as of today, believe it or not.
So Jim, I'm trying to understand the big picture of this whole thing. And so correct me if I'm wrong. Like my general understanding is the game itself that you've created is not necessarily anything revolutionary. It's sort of like your guys' own take and tweak on a lot of the other NFT, like random generating, feature swapping, breeding type of things going on. But
correct.
But you're using it as a vehicle to sort of push out this concept of keeping everything on the blockchain in a nutshell. Is that basically what you're doing with it?
I think you hit it right. Like, I do think that we actually created some pretty special art in the end. I can look at these and feel great about them, but there's nothing groundbreaking about that in any way. It's generative SVG art. Yeah, the art on chain and metadata on chain, the dynamic metadata, the true ownership license that Matthew touched on in the very beginning of the podcast. Those are the real things that we've done here, and then the art is secondary to all of that. So,
Okay.
Really, this was about putting out a better NFT, and we do plan to take the metadata improvements that we've made and create a new standard based off of that. So that's something we will be working on once we get Avastars completely out of the door and we have time to take a breath. But we do want these metadata improvements to, and really OpenSea is actually serving our metadata directly from the blockchain, which is really huge, right? Like we don't have to host a JSON file in order for them to read the information. So what you're seeing on OpenSea is actually on the blockchain, and that's really powerful. But we're just serving up the JSON in the current standard that exists for ERC 721, and we can't even tell you half the things about each trait that we want to tell you. So we can basically, just tell you like that this trait goes to this gene, and then OpenSea will determine the rarities and everything else, but that gene has a rarity already assigned to it by us, and it has a series assigned to it, and it has other things assigned to it as well. So we can't tell you that though on OpenSea, because it's not OpenSea's fault, because the current JSON standard doesn't support rich metadata. And so we not only want to do the on-chain metadata standard and standardize that, but we also want to create a richer metadata standard that's suited for multiple types of NFTs. We have different classes of NFTs coming out with art and games and things like that, and they could use different types of metadata. Anyways, so that's one of the things that we really. It turns out I think that's actually the biggest thing we did here. The art on chain's cool, and that's good for collectors, but the metadata on chain and then an improved metadata standard, which should come out of that. That's really going to be useful to any NFT project going forward. And I think there's even ways to make it backwards compatible by deploying a new contract that can read the metadata on an existing token and then serve up the metadata information that developers are traditionally hosting off chain. So that's an option too as well.
So who do you see like outside of the game that you've created? And the artwork is cool, man. I mean, I also play a lot of these games and have tinkered around with a million of them, and it's just a fascinating space in general. But let's say this is all like all goes well, it's successful. People like this concept of storing everything on the blockchain. Who needs this the most right now? Or do you feel like this is like an across the board, like everyone should be getting on this train? Or is there like a specific niche that you feel like they really need to be doing this more than anybody?
Well, we don't have a whole lot of important stuff going on in NFTs yet. So that's a really great question. And I haven't said I've put a great deal of thought into every area where this should or could apply. I think collectibles is a very obvious one, right? We're trying to collect things. I think art is extremely obvious as well. I know it's not realistic at the moment to put large images on Ethereum blockchain, but I do believe in the next year or two, we will have opportunities and options to put larger files on a blockchain and in an NFT and have, that ability. So, I mean, right now I'm doing what's available, using Ethereum and some pretty efficient ways of storing some images. But I think art in particular is very important because, look, I'm just a novice collector of art, and you guys know I have strong opinions, but I'm just not afraid to share what I think. And I believe that this NFT solve like one of the biggest problems in the art world, at least for digital art. It solves one of the biggest problems in the art world that's existed with traditional art, and that is the provenance of the art, right? And with NFT that has the art and the history of ownership and the metadata of that art, like what it is and who did it and everything else, when all that stuff's there in one place, like it's a single point of failure, but it's on a distributed, decentralized network. So that point of failure, it's such a elegant solution to this age-old problem in the art world. So like, I actually think that it's probably most important in the long run for art, as far as like all three of these things being together. And I think collectibles as well. Outside of that, there's probably applications for all of this. But I mean, I believe that NFTs could be identity, and I definitely don't think that we want all of our identity stuff just stored immutably on the blockchain, at least not like nakedly without being encrypted and stuff like that. I'm not even ready to get to like zero knowledge proof NFTs. I think that's an awesome idea, but like, I feel like we still have to like really build the foundations of how like NFTs like handle information and data and where it's contained, and really trying to fit, like, let's stop looking at NFT just as like a record of ownership. Let's look at it as a complete thing, like whatever the NFT is, let's try to keep it as contained inside of that as possible. So that's my crazy idea that I even sometimes I'm like, why do I even care about this? Like, I don't even know why. Seriously, like I just do care about it. So, you know, I'm just going to keep caring about it.
No, I mean, I definitely feel like it's a valid challenge. And when you frame it the way that you do, it not simply having the NFT be this record of ownership, which is leaps and bounds better than what we've had previously, especially when it comes to art, right? But when you step back and you're like, well, how are we going to correlate all this information, including the image of the art itself? Like, in 50 years, in 100 years, like assuming like we want to still collect this art. But then also bearing in mind all the factors that play out in reality where projects shut down and like images could be lost, or, you know, if they're not stored in this immutable way, right? And that's a hugely valid concern that people really do need to start taking seriously in terms of like backing up these images with the actual token itself, and hopefully coming up with a solution that, like, I think what you're trying to get at is put everything together on the single token so that it's simple and elegant. I mean,
it's the most efficient way if you think about it too. Like, people are going to say you shouldn't store stuff on a blockchain. Well, I call BS. We have plenty of storage space. You know, there's plenty of servers in the world. We just have to figure out how to connect those into blockchains. That's not something I'm trying to solve right now anyways. But, you know, if you store things on a different source than the blockchain than the token's on, and that goes away, then the tokens the storage space you use on the blockchain to store that other information about the token is, in my mind, is kind of wasted anyways. So like, why not like make it so it's never going to be like trash, right? Like, make it so that everything there is always complete, and then you're never like wasting space on the blockchain, so to speak. I mean, you can make other arguments as to why it would be a waste, but it's not going to break.
Totally. I mean, I see what you're doing as sort of like a century project or a millennium project, just to keep all of this stuff around for the long term. And that's cool.
I want to make a point too about like, I don't think most people are really thinking about what's possible with NFTs and blockchain as well. I think what a lot of people, and this isn't like, I'm not digging people for doing this, but I think a lot of people are looking and saying like, how can I like use this with what I already have here, right? Instead of saying like, what new cool thing can I do with this? And that's kind of where like I came from, I think, with Avastars.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I mean, the developer mindset and the real spirit of innovation, and creating something novel. I totally feel that. And it's understandable, like what people, when they see a set of tools, arrayed in front of them, they can hack something together. And I think in our situation within the NFT space, people have hacked together a lot of really great, awesome stuff. But now it's up to people to think of the longer term in addition to thinking of the shorter term. But I really want to touch on this idea of identity and how Avastars could potentially play into there. Because in the digital space, I don't know if you're familiar with David Birch, but he's been a huge proponent of coming up with this kind of fractionalized pseudonymous theory of identity, where especially with the blockchain, we're able to really solidify and codify particular aspects of our identity and permission which ones we would like to make public at certain times, right? So
By the way, I'm not necessarily like specifically familiar with David Birch, but everything you were just saying there is very much in line with my line of thinking.
Yeah. So using that as a starting point, I would just like to hear your thoughts on how NFTs could play a role in building out a viable form of digital identity.
Sure. And this is actually like the thing I'm probably most excited about in NFTs. It's not actually metadata and art on chain. It's actually the future that we're trying to get to. But when I am talking about identity and NFT identity, I am not just talking about Avastars. I'm talking about just NFTs in general. And Avastars just happen to be one NFT that's going to benefit greatly from identity based on NFT. So the premise is, well, there's a couple different things here. Are you guys familiar with the dark forests of the internet? So I kind of really identify with that, and online anonymity and privacy and people's right to that. I don't feel like it's always necessary, but I think there should always be the option to be, anonymous and private if you want, and on the right platforms. Kind of with that in mind, I feel like NFTs fit really well as a form of identity. And for starters, let's take it from the physical world into the blockchain, and let's talk about how today I've always thought it's ridiculous to use a wallet as an identity, because my identity is inside of my wallet. I mean, not only that, like people are concerned about their privacy, and people don't want like their accounts just out there in the open. And obviously on blockchain, they are going to be publicly available, and there's going to be ways to find them, but most people aren't going to go do that stuff on their own. So like, anyways, backing up from that, wallets are not a good form of identity. And that's the starting point for all of this, right? The second thing is that wallets do hold identities in the real world. So, okay, we've got a wallet. We got to put an identity in it. Well, like, I don't really know of any other things you can put in wallets other than cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens. So non-fungible tokens it is, because cryptocurrency doesn't make a good form of identity either. Anyways, so we've got a non-fungible token, which is a unique digital asset, which any NFT potentially could form as a form of identity. What we need to do is the first step to this really grand vision where every form of identity is an NFT, and I mean everything, is the first thing we do is just log in with an NFT instead of with our wallet address. So the only thing we change in this whole equation here, and I'm not a developer, I'm the guy who comes up with the ideas and challenges developers to make it. Instead of looking for the wallet address, we just need to look for the identifying NFT. And then the signature of that wallet is the second part. So the username is the NFT, and the password is still the wallet signature. So that's the simple premise. And let me explain a couple benefits here. One is, if you want to keep your account safe, you can just throw your NFT into, you're on your ledger or somewhere where you're not an active wallet, and you can keep it safe and secure. And then that way also, like, because of the nature of these things being able to be traded and bought and sold. So that leads into this other idea of like, now I can have hundreds of identities or thousands of identities. I can build up my reputation potentially on different websites and experiences and virtual worlds using different identities. So this opens up a really big chasm of possibility within identity. If we're just talking for now about identity in the online world, that doesn't have to be tied to your real world identity, where you're allowed to have an anonymity online. Like, all of a sudden, like, not only can you almost not trust anybody, but you can also like really, really, really trust people. Like, if I use my founder Avastar that I've never bought, sold, or traded, right? And like, I've built up my reputation on, and like, I can, like, there's some real power to that. Like, this is me, and like, you know it's me, even though it's not a real identity. It's my online identity. And then on top of that, like, we need our privacy. And like, some people believe, and I kind of am starting to subscribe to this, that the future of privacy is it's kind of like privacy through obfuscation. Like, we just like have like all these fake identities we throw out there, and bots that do all these fake things and actions around our accounts. And then like the advertisers and things like that can't figure out which one the real one of us is, and doesn't know how to like, really map our profiles. And anyways, I know I got off on a bit of a tangent there, but like, so that's for NFT login. There's a lot of cool possibilities around identity. but I think the key thing at first, I actually don't think this is like the hardest problem in the world to solve. I know there's some services out there. It might even be Mint-based, who I don't even really give a lot of credit for a lot of stuff, but they might even be looking to see, was that on your talk last week, where they're looking to see if an NFT is in the wallet in order to perform some action?
Yeah, exactly. They're using that for the moderator function.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the exact same thing. Like, you just have to look and see if a token's in the wallet. Like, and if it is, like, then there's maybe another service that says, okay, is this a token tied to NFT login? Yes. Okay. If it is, then initiate this login. Let's look for a signature now, right?
I think it's that. And then the reason why I love that thought experiment and this actual in real life experiment with the moderator token is that, well, we're talking just about Mint-based right now, but if they're able to record the actions that these moderators are taking and perhaps overlay an evaluation that the rest of the users on the network performs to kind of like judge the accuracy of the moderators themselves and record it on the token, on the NFT itself, that NFT could then be used by other sites who are looking for trusted moderators, right?
Yeah, that's the reputation you can build up, right? And so I don't actually know if it would go, I don't know if it goes specifically on that token. I think then you have a smart contract that actually manages all of this and keeps track of the reputation of the different tokens. Because otherwise all the tokens...
Are you familiar with Scribe?
Yeah. Yeah, Conlon's project?
Exactly. I'm imagining, like, if there's some sort of like reverse scribe or something like that, where you could add on like a comment or something to
that's kind of what I have in mind, I think, for this. Like, I think in my talks with Cliff, like, that's kind of where we've gone, is that, maybe there would be some sort of smart contract database that kind of says, like, a user would say, okay, I want Avastar 140 to be my identity. Like, I would go there and tell it, I want to set up an identity for Avastar 140, an NFT login identity. At first, it's just going to be that. And then it would say, okay, cool. And then, like, maybe there's some information that, like, the smart contract asks if we want to give it, like, I don't know, like, do you want a name associated with this or something like that, username or whatever it is. And then from there, I would then go to, crypto voxels and log in. And it would say, do you want to log in with a wallet address or, an NFT? I select an NFT. Okay, cool. And then, like, it goes and looks on the contract for, I don't know, it can probably look up who the current owner is on there or something. But anyways, there's a way it looks up and sees that NFT is an NFT login NFT, like it's been associated on the smart contract. And then from there, like, any action, just like you were saying with the moderator, any action I performed in crypto voxels, it could record. It could know that I placed, 7,000 bricks this week, etc. And, it can track everything. Or like, for some people like myself, like, my reputation is very important. Believe it or not, I'm willing to put it on the line a lot, but, like, my reputation is important to me and it's valuable to me. And I'd love for, like, in 10 years, for me not to have to spend hours explaining to somebody what I've done and why they should be listening to me pitch, like, some crazy idea that's going to save the world. Instead, I'd like to be able to just show them, like, here, look, I've done this a few times, and I'm not full of it. I don't know. I think that's, like, the really cool thing, is that we've got this ability to bring in these different metrics into our identity and measure all these things and gamify, like, these different, like, online profiles. It could really make, this is like a similar thing where, like, all of a sudden, like, you can't just think about logging into Facebook with this, because, like, that's boring. But, like, what new things can we do if now identity is, like, this tradable, like, asset that can be built up to hold some sort of value in the social, like, economy?
Dude, I'm in, man. I'm like, yeah, all right, it all makes sense. Let's just, fast forward.
Yeah, we just have to build it real quick, right?
Yeah. Well, so, yeah, I mean, this is the struggle with, like, a lot of, like, really good big ideas, is, like, how do you get, like, everyone else to recognize what a great big idea it is? And I'm like, whoa, we're, like, way down the rabbit hole, right? You got to, like, understand crypto, then you got to go from there to understanding NFTs and smart contracts, and then, like, have some appreciation for, like, metadata and transferring these properties and everything. So I'm like, what's the angle then, man? And is it like try to get everyone who's like already in our rabbit hole like on board with this concept, or do you see like outside of the rabbit hole applications that could start to use this?
Let me take the idea further here. So this is the first step, right? We log in with our NFTs, and then we can do these silly things like, social networks and stuff like that. But once you have the ability to log in with an NFT, then like maybe a company would like to explore the ability to move their employee badging to an NFT login. And then, like you were saying, you can log all the things a person does on a blockchain and a mutable ledger. Once we have NFT login, and when they have the ability to do a login based on an NFT on a blockchain, then we can start to apply that to the outside world and to users who don't even have to know that they're interacting with the blockchain at all. I mean, you can start to like look at things like memberships to different clubs and organizations. We see right now, like with the, I think I love the demo of the Forbes login with the unlock protocol, but the token's like spam after it's used, right? So like, I'm not really sure if that makes sense, but instead being able to attach a membership to identity, to an NFT identity instead, right? So being able to like maybe say like this NFT login is identified or is authorized for the next 12 months on this platform. And then like you can still like, give that like login information to somebody else like you could with the unlock protocol. But in this way, like you're not creating an extra NFT just for like a temporary membership. So like, I don't think that like we need to do like membership tokens for everything and conference tickets for everything and concert tickets for everything. I do see like the collectability of some of those things for what it's worth, but I actually think it would be much better if it was attached to our identities, some of these things, memberships and things like that. It's a little more efficient if you like take a like step back.
So for like a first proof of concept, I mean, since you already have Avastars out there and you have this really interesting Discord server and the Token Stars, right? Discord server. And I know you have the website in the works to bring everything together. Are you going to try with Cliff to put together sort of Avastar as identity proof of concept?
Yeah. So what we would like to do, as a proof of concept for this is, if no one else is working on NFT login, then I guess we'll probably have to build that. We might hear something at ETH Denver this week. Supposedly Fortmatic's working on that. If they're not working on it, then we'll start working on that as soon as we wrap up, Gen 1 of Avastars. But the idea then is that we would do a social network for Avastars. Like kind of like a Facebook for Avastar sort of thing, where you would log in with your Avastar and have your profile for your Avastar, and it would just be your Avastar social network. Like, it's not you, it's Avastars. So that would be like just a proof of concept, like just to show like, here's something you can do with NFT login. That's different than just traditional login with an NFT on an existing site, cause like I said, it is about like doing the traditional stuff too, but we also have to think about like what new things can we do with this technology, that we couldn't do with previous technology.
I feel that. And then, well, kind of to take us out of this rabbit hole, which has been really fun, but to maybe just enter a new one. Riz and I, we talk mainly about crypto art. I know you're more into coming from the gaming side of the NFT space. Of course, I'm sure you're familiar with all the different digital art marketplaces. I'm sure I've seen you comment on them and talk about them. I just wanted to kind of go through like a rapid fire series of questions, like throwing out the marketplace names and then asking you if you would buy any of the work there or not buy, just because of like maybe concerns about metadata storage or what have you. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, I mean, you probably don't have to ask about each one specifically. I can tell you right now that I don't think any of the four main platforms, and the four I would be talking about would be Super Rare, Known Origin, Blockchain Art Exchange, and Maker's Place. To my knowledge and searching, which has not been extensive, but more extensive than most probably, I don't think they're really storing much metadata. They're probably storing the IPFS hash of the art itself. And I think that's most of the metadata. I could be really wrong about this though. So please, if I'm wrong, please, tell me I'm wrong on Twitter. and I will learn, and that will be good. But I don't really think that like they're taking much measures about the metadata right now. And the art, though, as far as I know, on all 4 of those platforms is on IPFS. So at least there is there's a distributed storage for the art, and there are ways for a user to be able to re-upload that art to IPFS if for any reason it disappeared. So I feel reasonably comfortable with the measures all 4 of those platforms have taken, and I own art on all 4 of those platforms. I don't feel really, really great about any of it. I don't really feel great about any NFTs except for autoglyphs and now Avastars. But they're all really trying to do the best that they can with what they have right now. And I think all of those platforms have a really solid shot of being around for, the next 10 years. So I feel fairly comfortable buying an NFT that doesn't fit like the full ethos of what we've been talking about for the last 30 or 40 minutes off any of those platforms, because the artists on there are amazing. And I love a lot of the art. I am fairly new to collecting crypto art, but over the last 2 or 3 months, or maybe longer, I've lost track of time. I've kind of amassed quite a collection. So I'm very much in. I think crypto art is like top of the NFT space. Like that is the creme de la creme of NFTs. So I want to work to get that stuff on the blockchain and everything else, as we talked about earlier. Like that's why I want to do that, because I feel like this is like we have the next. This is a renaissance in digital art going on here, and we have a way now to preserve this stuff like for hundreds of years potentially, and maybe even longer. And we can preserve all of it and keep a record of all of it. And I just want to help make that happen.
That's sweet. And I feel like when folks in the space hear that, because I think there's a lot of misinterpretation that can happen, obviously, on Twitter and just with the written word. So I feel like when folks hear that, and we're fighting the same battle. we're just saying different things.
I know. Well, I've been telling people that in the middle of our conversation. Like, there's so much nuance to everything we're discussing around copyright and quality and effort and all these different things. But like at the end of the day, like you really hit it at the beginning. Is like, I don't know why I care so much, but I care about NFTs, and I really just want to make NFTs better for everybody, like for the artists, for the collectors, for the developers. Like, let's just light this space on fire. Like, that's what I'm trying to do.
I feel that.
In the good way, light it on fire. Like, let's like light the blaze. Let's like light the freaking fuse underneath of our engines that's going to shoot us to freaking Venus. I don't know.
Jim, are screenshots art? Jim, I'm just messing with you, man.
Some of them are, and you know what? I do want to touch on that. I'm actually really glad you brought that up. I'm in the Super Rare Discord server, and I was talking to Pac, who's an amazing new artist on the Super Rare platform. And we were having this discussion, and I said, that art invokes emotion and everything else. And I said, well, hold on, those screenshots pissed me off. And so if the point of those was to make me mad, then it's a masterpiece, so I'll open the doorway that it might be art if it was meant to make me mad.
Dude,
or anybody mad.
That's a fantastic answer. One brief follow-up question, man. Do you have any like interesting projects that you don't necessarily have your hand into, but that you're just you seem like a tinkerer? Are you tinkering around with anything cool on the side?
God, there's so many cool things happening right now. Like, we kind of just went through that the first wave of micro NFTs with the math token, the word token, and chain faces and stuff like that. Those are all my friends who made that. We've all kind of been talking about on-chain stuff. And, I got them into the cult over a couple of months, and now they're convinced that, maybe on-chain stuff is cool. And they're doing really cool stuff with composability. So I think those are really neat. Let me think, because there is some stuff that I'm kind of keeping my eye on. Geez, Johnny on the spot here. Crypto Motors seems really interesting. Like, they've been around for a little while, and I've seen them around, but Token Smart really like has brought in like these developers and things into the community. and Leandro is the developer. He's one of the designers for Crypto Motors, and he's amazing. He really has opened a lot of our eyes to the quality of the project. So I'm actually really excited about that. I just bought Avastars actually bought 84 parcels in Sandbox last night or the night before, and so we're going to have a big build in there. We've got our big build in crypto voxels. I'm extremely excited about the future of crypto voxels. We're going to have a big scavenger hunt for Avastars in crypto voxels in the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited about virtual worlds in the metaverse. Maybe another time, like, we can just talk about like the future of the metaverse and where I feel like Avastars kind of fits into that and everything else. But
let's do that at NFT NYC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool.
Looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think a lot of other folks will too. I think it clarifies a lot about your position, where you're coming from, your intent. But also I think we talked about a lot of the awesome implications of the project that you're currently working on, Avastars, which I hope people will continue to FOMO over. I can't wait to scoop my first one, actually, just because of the identity part and seeing what kind of cool stuff you can cook up with that. But thank you so much for your time. But before you go, just make sure you plug like all your Discord servers or wherever you want anyone to find you and your projects, and then we can sign off.
Yeah, absolutely. And just want to say that, right now the founder sales going on in Avastars, those are just founders. The game itself that we talked about earlier, that'll launch hopefully in the beginning of March. We're going to try to get the website and scrolling up as soon as possible, even before we start letting you mint them, so people can go scroll through and look. So keep an eye out for that. Twitter, we are at Avastars NFT. I'm at DappWizard. And our Discord is discord.gg/Avastars. And if you wanted to join the Token Smart community, which I would highly recommend, it's like drinking from a fire hose, but there's a lot of really great people there. It's discord.gg/NFT. So we've got all the dank, Discord links. We also, our blog for Avastars is nft.substack.com. I don't know why anybody else didn't get that one yet, but nft.substack.com. We're at avastars.io. I actually, even though we don't have a website, I think people will be amused by what I have up there right now. It was just a really simple form before, but I took the form we had there and made it a little bit more fun. So even if just go check out the form on our website and tell me if I did a good job hacking that together.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jim. And looking forward to meeting up in NFT NYC, but please just keep on building, man. Keeping it real.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, I love Scent. I just discovered it like a month ago, and more people need to know about Scent, and I'm starting to spread the word myself. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm kind of active on there. I'm more seeding posts and things like that and making some comments. I haven't done any of my own content yet, but I really, really love the platform.
Oh, that's awesome. And totally noticed that. And hopefully we'll build out some new tools in the upcoming weeks with our new update that you'll like even more.
I mean, is it possible that sometime in the future we could have Avastar photos as, Avastars be the login? If are you guys game if I can do NFT login? Are you guys going to help? You guys going to integrate that? Are you going to be one of the first people to integrate it?
That's something that we've been talking about, how to incorporate NFTs. So that's white space that we're more than happy to keep discussing.
Come on, put yourselves on the line here. If I do it, you guys will implement it. Come on, let's do it.
Ongoing discussion.
Let's do it together. All right. Well, I am going to make NFT login if no one else is, and then I'm going to convince you guys to put it on your site.
Whatever happens, it's going to be sweet. But again, it was a pleasure, Jim, and talk soon.
Yep, take care.
Thank you very much for listening to my conversation with Avastars creator Jim McNelis. If you enjoyed listening to this conversation as much as I did recording it, make sure that you go and seed it over on scent.co. My next spotlight will be dropping sometime next week, and it'll be featuring the spherical crypto artist, or soon to be crypto artist, known as Spherical Art, aka Paul Peterson. Look for that to drop sometime early next week, and have a great weekend, everybody.
It's going Scent Podcast. Scent Podcast.